Good afternoon, YouTube. AJ here. Today I'm wanting to do a real quick video on some adhesives, and I actually have some of them in the vehicle, believe it or not, because I needed to replenish some of my own stock anyways. And so I went to get some and thought, well, heck, you know, it's lunch break, it's windy, I'll set my vehicle and do a video over these real quick. And so I'll just start with the simple Elmers wood glue. And I like the sandable, paintable type because it just makes it easier to work with, basically. And, you know, that's one you get for obvious reasons, to put wood together. But it actually has another unique, well, I think it's unique use and kind of handy for especially somebody with tender hands or tender spots that they need to get a splinter out of. Make sure you know which direction the splinter's facing. Apply that glue on there. Let it set up till it's nice and dry, and then you peel that glue off, and a lot of the times it'll pull them splinters out. Even some pretty tough ones, it'll actually pull them out of there. It's quite impressive. And so it's just one of the things that I thought would be very good to keep on hand for SHTF situations, or just in general. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so it's perfect for me to have as much stuff on hand as I can. So moving on to the next thing is Flex Seal, which I actually don't have any of that in here. I just bought some of that not too long ago, so I have a big jug of it, and I have like a quart jug of it, and I also have a couple of the pressurized cans, the spray cans of the Flex Seal. And I like that for several reasons as well. You know, you got it for roof repairs, waterproofing your boots, help sealing up a water trough, things like that. I mean, basically, if you've ever watched their infomercials, it's crazy what the Flex Seal can do for you. So moving on to the next thing, I'm trying to rush through this a little bit today because I'm running short on my lunch break, but is this Forma gasket. And there's different types of it. This is just the one I decided to grab today. And what I like Forma gasket for is, basically every mechanic knows why you need Forma gasket if you're working on a vehicle, but also like using it in a pinch on plumbing. So we work on a cabin that a buddy of mine built, and I helped him build several years ago, and we go out there and work on it once in a while, and it's way in the middle of nowhere, and so it's difficult to get stuff. And a lot of times you think you have all the stuff you need in the bone pile out in the garage. You got your bone pile of PVC pipes, connections, all these gaskets and everything that go into your drains and all that fun stuff. You think you have it in there, and then you go digging through the bone pile, and turns out you don't have everything you need. So if any of you guys have put together any sinks or anything, you got the drain that comes down one side and then drain comes down on the other side, and they kind of Y over and they go down. Well, those have like a screw-on deal, and inside of those, within those, is like a rubber gasket that's shaped kind of funny, and it seats down in there, and then you thread it up there and it makes a good seal. Well, when we were doing a certain project, you know, putting a sink in out there, and for one, we didn't want to run all the way to town to get some stuff. For two, you know, we were doing the project, so we didn't have those little plastic gasket deals. So I just thought, well, to hell with it. I'll just use some of that Forma gasket, kind of form my own little seal, and see how it works. And then I actually even put some on the threads and things like that, kind of down below it, so it would, once you screwed it onto there, it would kind of seat up on there real good. And waited till it got dried up, kind of cleaned off the outside, and, you know, made it look a little nicer, and nobody could really tell that it was on there. And guess what? It drained, and it did not leak. So the only way anybody would ever be able to know that I did that is if they actually tore it apart and took a look at it, and it worked just fine. And there's a couple other places where I've actually used that in plumbing to help create a seal, but you get the idea. Just use your imagination on all this stuff, folks. I mean, you can go on for days. I know I could on liquid gasket anyways, for things you've needed to use it for, and it makes a really good seal in a situation where you don't have what you need, and you sure as heck ain't gonna run all the way to town to get it. So anyways, kind of mumbling on or rambling on about that. I'll just move on. I'm trying to keep this video short today. And so the next one is actually JB Weld, which boom, got it again, because of course I use a lot of random stuff all the time. So JB Weld, they man, they've got an assortment of stuff. I mean, you're talking everything from you can get the compounds to mix it up to fix rubber, plastics, metals, woods. There again, I think they even have it for marine use. The list goes on and on for JB Weld. And man, that stuff is tough. It works great. I would highly recommend keeping a lot of that stuff on hand. That, with any of these other glues and a few clamps, man, you can sure get by at minimum, and it may even work as a permanent fix, depending on, you know, what it is you're actually fixing or whatever. And then, so I'll move on to through the roof. This is by far one of the best silicones I've ever found, especially to patch or repair, excuse me, or fix anything on a roof. So this stuff here, it stays pliable for, oh, they say 50 years. Of course, I'm not even 50 years old yet, so I couldn't tell you that. But I do know for a fact that it stays pliable for many, many years, and that's one thing I love about it. And you can apply it wet, you can apply it in the rain. It makes for a hell of a way to patch a hole in the roof or whatever, or, you know, anything that you got a leak on, even, or if you're in a pinch again, go back to plumbing out at the cabin, you're setting in a sink drain. Well, you ain't got the little gasket or nothing like that. Well, that stuff works perfect. Again, you know, you just make your little bead, put your little bead around there, seat it in there good, it's clear. So you clean up the edges once you get it all done, and it stays pliable, like I said. So if you do need to tighten up something later on, you can squeeze that seal down just a little bit tighter and it doesn't leak. Or if you need to make a crazy connection, like on a gray water system running outside of the cabin, and you run out of pipe, but you just have a little ways to go. You run out of, I'm sorry, not pipe, you run out of connections and you got a little ways to go, and you need like a 90 and a 45 or some kind of weird contraption. I have been known to use radiator hoses and silicone to, through the roof silicone, to patch those together with a couple hose clamps, squeeze it down. Once the hose clamp, or I'm sorry, once it actually, God dang it, can't think of the word. Once it actually sets up, you can take the hose clamps off if you want. I tend to leave them on. But it will work on something like that too, where you just kind of, you know, go with the flow and put your stuff together, and you got yourself a winner. So I'm gonna move on to Loctite, and they've got the blue, the red. They actually got some other Loctites that I just seen while I was in there that was kind of interesting, but it'll tell you on here what it's used for. Like the red, I believe, is for if you're putting in a bolt and you don't want that to ever come out, basically, or you're gonna fight it coming out. Now the blue you use on screws and stuff like that that you intend on pulling out and reusing and stuff like that. It's just a different, you make sure you read the bottles so you know what you're using the application for, folks. And they have lots of other, you know, they have websites with all that stuff on it. So just check it out and see what you got going on. And then now I'll move on to basically my favorite type of adhesive, which is Gorilla Glue. And yes, I have used it on many, many interesting things. I had teenage daughters that had horrible depth perception while driving, apparently. So one of them had ripped off the bumper, you know. The brackets were still technically there, I guess, but the whole plastic rubbery thing was ripped off for a good quarter of the bumper. Well, once again, clamps, Gorilla Glue, actually a couple bungee cords to get it all put back in place and glued together. And then once that glue set up, I trimmed off the excess with a razor knife and set them down the road again. Well, even with all the wind and everything like that, that bumper held up for, you know, 6-7 months until she did it again. And Actually, the glue held up good enough that, or it was just at a different angle, I don't know, but the bumper actually tore in a different spot. But there again, Gorilla Glued it. And, you know, once it set up, I was able to take the bungee cords off and everything like that, so she didn't have to drive around, which I should have made her drive around with bungee cords and duct tape and everything else on there, actually, after the second time. But, you know, being a dad, I felt bad, so I went ahead and tried to make it not look as bad as, you know, tried to make it look as good as possible. And so anyways, that pretty much wraps up my favorite one. I'll move on to super glue, which of course everybody knows. Super glue, there's a ton of uses for. I can't tell you how many Barbies I've fixed in the past, and now with the grandbaby, how many fairies I'm fixing and all these things like that. So to me, super glue is the handiest thing in the world, especially if you got little ones, because we know they can't go without their Barbies or their fairies or whatever it is that they're playing with. They can't go without it, and it breaks my heart, so I want to make sure I can put it together, and then she will tell me how Pow Pow fixed it. So make sure you have super glue. Plus, if you cut yourself or anything like that, now don't take this from me, I'm not a doctor, but I use it to seal up my wounds. Of course, they have the cleaner stuff, but it's more costly. Super glue is super cheap, so I just throw it in my pocket, and plus I can fix a lot of other stuff with super glue, so I like keeping that in my pocket and use it for those types of things. So that's pretty much it on just the adhesives. I just kind of wanted a quick list. I mean, there's several other adhesives, but these are ones I think would be good bartering items and or just good things you'd really truly need in a SHTF situation, because you can do a lot of repairs with them. But then again, I'm the bell and wire and grade tape will fix a lot of stuff type of guy, so may not be the best advice in the world to take from me. But anyways, to kind of end this off, this week, the 19th, so Thursday, 2 days from now, I'll be on the Angry Prepper. So if you guys want, hop over there and watch that. He's going to be interviewing me, and hopefully I won't make a fool of myself. And you know, I never thought I'd be having as many viewers as I do now. I sure appreciate everybody, so hopefully I don't get on there and look like a fool. And I never thought I'd be on there, so you know, let's just see how it goes. So hit the like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and thanks a lot for watching. Be safe.